What if I told you? A deadly disease once touched a man's skin, and instead of infecting him, it did not? This is not folklore. This is a moment in history, witnessed under a microscope, where a man of God stood face to face with death. And death lost. His name was John G. Lake. John was not an ordinary preacher. He was a man of deep conviction, intense faith, and a passion for healing. Born in 1870, he walked away from success and fortune to follow the call of God. Wherever he went, people were healed. But it was during a terrible crisis in South Africa that one of his most astounding miracles took place. At the time, the bubonic plague was tearing through the land. It was a brutal disease spread by infected fleas that caused fever, swelling, black boils, and death, often within days. There was no cure. The sick were isolated, and the dead piled up faster than they could be buried. Doctors arrived in protective suits, masks, and gloves. But John G. Lake walked straight into plague zones with nothing but his Bible in hand and peace in his heart. He moved around taking care of the infected just like the health workers in suits. One day, a group of British doctors asked him why he wasn't infected. Lake answered, "The spirit of life in Christ Jesus flows through me. Sickness cannot cling to a body that's filled with life." They didn't believe him. So, he offered them a test. They took foam from the lungs of a plague victim, still full of live bacteria, and placed it directly on Lake's bare hand. Then, they examined it under a microscope. What they saw stunned them. The plague bacteria died instantly. It didn't survive even seconds on his skin. It wasn't magic. It wasn't a coincidence. It was the law of the spirit of life, overcoming the law of death. Lake later said, "When a man's spirit and body are filled with the presence of God, disease cannot exist." This was just one of many miracles. He would go on to open healing rooms in Spokane, Washington, where over 100,000 healings were documented. The U.S. government called Spokane one of the healthiest cities in the country. John G. Lake believed that every believer could walk in that same power. Not just to survive, but to heal, to deliver, to overcome. He didn't live in fear. He lived by faith. And on that day in South Africa, faith proved stronger than death. That's the miracle of John G. Lake. And it's a reminder that what filled him can fill you too. If this story stirred your faith, don't keep it to yourself. Like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Have you ever experienced a miracle? Tell us in the comments below. We want to hear your story. And remember, God's power didn't die with the past. It's alive right now.